Hey folks, Max from Woodsman's Finest here. Coming at you one more time with my Grip to Tips series. Today we're talking about something quite new in the traditional archery community. Not too long ago, South Cox of Stalkerstickbows struck a little bit of a hat trick by buying two more other bow companies, Dryad Archery and A&H, to acquire a patent for a specific limb cross section. I acquired one of those new ACS Longbows, and I want to find out if there is any specific or significant difference between the older Longbow limbs by Stalkerstickbows and the new ACS Stalkerstickbows limbs. So let's find out together. Alrighty folks, cheesy intro, a little bit of footage, and finally me here with the longbow that we're talking about. Not quite actually, because during the video you're gonna realize that this is actually the Stalker Jackal riser that I'm having. Or like, this is an old one. I don't think even this was built by South. This was like his predecessor, and I love this riser. And then I got a new Stalkerstickbows ACS longbow with the Jackal riser. It's the Coyote Jackal. It has the same geometry, and I really like mixing and matching. So I actually have 3 pairs of Stalker limbs by now and 2 risers, so it makes 6 different bow combinations, which is for my tinkering mind. How can I say that? It is like a drug, probably by poison by now. I tinker too much, but I love it. So right now I'm running these new ACS longbow limbs on my old Jackal riser. Without further ado, a little bit of story. I was running this older Jackal with static longbow limbs and the old longbow limbs by Stalkerstickbows for quite a while, and they also have a different length, right? So my 2 oldest setups with this riser here were both 62 inches, like a static recurve limb and a longbow limb that both made it a 62-inch bow. Now, on this new build, I asked South to get me a 64-inch setup because I don't have a very long draw length, something between 27.5, 28 inches, depending on how you measure it. But I do like a 64-inch bow. My shoulders are not good anymore after many years of hard training and some stupidity and a lot of grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so on and so forth. And I do like a longer longbow with a little bit of a smoother draw cycle. Now, that being said, this new bow also took about 2 years to get to me, so the anticipation was really high, because that also means actually that whole limb thing with the ACS limbs is not that new anymore. Spoiler, Max being a little bit late to the party. But what happened was the build time for the custom was a while, and then it got stuck in customs in Canada forever, and then a friend took it because I wasn't there anymore when it actually arrived after being stuck there for 6 months. And then I didn't go back to Canada for another 6, 7, 8 months, whatever. And in the end, it was 2 years. So when I unpacked it, actually in Alberta for some black bear hunting, working for a outfitter in Alberta, I was actually very stoked. And the anticipation, like I said, was extremely high. That's enough for the backstory. We need to understand what we're comparing. So the older model that I was shooting, or I'm shooting in this video, it's a couple months later. Unfortunately, some of the footage got lost, so I'm reshooting some of the footage right now. Some of the older longbow is 62 inches, and as you can see in the video, it's also pulling a few pounds more. The new model, ACS limbs, both of the limbs are still available, has a little bit of a different, of course, completely different limb geometry, because the ACS means that there is actually a concave belly of the limb, and still I think the same geometry back of the limb, yeah, but the belly is concave. The geometry is slightly different. The older ones have a little bit more recurve in them, so they're also pulling with a little bit more pizzazz. So definitely a little bit harder on the in the start. It's also a 62-inch limb, right? A shorter limb to make a 62-inch bow on the same length riser, which I'm not quite sure how long they are. They're probably 17 inches. And then the new one here's obviously a longer limb. It has a little bit less reflex to it. Right now it's also running at about 7.5 inches brace. So if I'm getting it to 7 3/4, 8, which is like the maximum where I put it, it's almost like a D-shaped bow, especially in the top limb. So that also, of course, results in a little bit of a smoother draw, especially in the beginning of the draw right here. This is where most of my shoulder problems stem from, because of bad form in the past, etc., etc. So especially in the beginning here, I like shooting longbows because right here they actually do build up, and the first couple of inches are very easy for me to pull, which is a little bit easier for me to keep my shoulders low and all that. If I'm shooting recurves, especially static recurves that have a wall right in the beginning and they get soft in the back, right here is where I hurt my shoulder, because there is this wall to overcome, almost like on a compound where it starts like a wall. So compound would never be for me, especially because of that. Quick shout out as well to the Push Archery Alpha Pack. Thanks for the support, guys. But for me, it is the absolute best platform out there if you're into the traditional archery, not just bow hunting, but also just like finding out how to find a system that works for you. They have absolutely saved archery for me. I keep repeating that because it's such a big deal for me. I almost hung it up after 10-15 years of instinctive shooting, which doesn't work for my brain. It might work for other people very well. It doesn't work for me. Almost was ready to hang it up because there was no resources here in Europe that were coherent. Let's just put it that way. There's nothing to this day, in my opinion, that comes even close. There's still a lot of old myths being juggled and thrown around, but the Push Archery really took it a step further. They set themselves up to get a whole bunch of crap storm their way, because they definitely rattled the community quite a lot. And there's a reason why so many people, old, young, full-on traditional, modern traditional, are now a fan and following the Push Archery community and platforms. You can find them on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on thepusharchery.com, where you also find the pack, which is the Push Archery Center of Knowledge. There's a whole bunch of different courses on there. I've definitely bought a whole bunch of them. New is also the traditional Vision Quest by Danny Sturgis Jr., who was arguably the first platform and DVD series that I bought online back then. Actually, the first one I got a CD copy shipped to Austria from the US, and then I bought them all online. And they have definitely changed my archery journey significantly. And also, you can also find them now digitally on the Push Archery. There's some deer like just running around me the whole time. So I'm not paid by those guys. It's just a very personal thing for me to actually feature them on this platform, mention them, and send, whoever doesn't know them yet, especially in Europe, check them out. I'm gonna put the link down in the description box because it's absolutely worth it. So without too much rambling, I wanted to set the stage. We know what we're comparing. I think this you're gonna see in this video that there is absolutely a point for the new limbs. What I also want to point out, during the video you're gonna see quite a lot of footage of the new bow, also with the new riser. The craftsmanship is absolutely beyond. It's elfenlish-like craftsmanship. The limbs, beautiful combination. The way the tips are worked, the wedges. This is also a double carbon limb. I have to say that as well. So there's 2 layers of bamboo in the middle, in the center, and then there is 2 layers of carbon on either side, on the back and on the belly. And then there's glass, or like there's a veneer, and there's glass over top. So altogether, a little bit of a different combination. As far as prices, probably slightly up from the other bow as well. And obviously, technology-wise, we're looking at probably almost 10 years, probably more, than the older bow that was probably not even built by South to start with. So it's hard to compare. I think in the end we're gonna come out with a result that absolutely makes a point for the new ACS limbs, the extra investment and so on and so forth. But we're also gonna find out that, in my opinion, if you own a pair of the older Reflex Deflex longbows by South, since I'm not paid by them or anything like that, I can honestly say if you're owning an older pair by South, there is really no reason, in my opinion, to update, because there is a performance difference 100% as we find out, and we're gonna see what it actually is. However, you don't need to upgrade for, I don't know, $600-700, maybe $500. I don't know what it is right now. At this point, with the base option, I don't think you need to. However, let's have a look at the speed test itself and the performance test, and then we can come back for a conclusion. All right, folks. Let's start out with this first jackal with the classic limbs. I've marked my draw length on the measuring arrow here with just a rubber band that allows me to just pull it to a certain mark. All right, let's turn this one on. I'm gonna do 3 separate pulls to get a nice average. 50.6. I don't think I have to show you this every single time. 50.6, zeroed. A third time. 51. So somewhere around like maybe 50.8, you know, 50.9, somewhere like that. All right, so let's keep that in mind. So here's the new baby on the block. I mean, it's pretty difficult to put into words how absolutely gorgeous this bow is. The other one is gorgeous in a different way, but this one just has all the bells and whistles. I mean, the laminates, the laminated accent, like layered accent stripes is. I don't deserve beauty like this. All right, zeroed. Let's give her 48.1. 47.5. 47.5. So somewhere between 47 and 48, 47.5 and 48. Let's just call it 47.8.9. So that actually means that we are 3 pounds lighter than the other bow, right? The other one was 50.78, something like that. This one here we have 47 point whatever. So there is actually 3 pounds difference in the bow. Now another thing is, of course, this bow being 64 inches, it pulls a little bit different. I would say it pulls a little bit smoother to my draw of only 27 point, I don't know, 27 and a quarter or something like that. And so that can be a little bit of a advantage for me in a hunting situation. I gotta be honest. For 64 inches, smooth pull, 47.8. 62 inches, also very smooth pull, but of course 62 inches long. That makes it a little bit crisper, and then of course 3 pounds more. 50.7, 50.8, so 3 pounds more. Let's measure the arrow so we have a little bit of a reference in terms of weight. this tab on here. Tear 0. The shaft on here. Here we go. Does it tell us? 531. Now 531. Let's just put that in perspective. So for the first bow that I got, the classic Jackal Longbow, that is 50.8 pounds. At 531, we're right around 10.5 grains per pound, right? So 508 or something like that, plus, 23, so basically half of it. So let's just call it 10.5 grains per pound. Now for the other bow, that looks a little bit different. So if we're coming in at 47.8, 531 grains, we are right around 11 and odds, 11 and a little bit. So definitely a very respectable hunting weight. Now my chronograph here is somehow set to meters per second, and I don't, it's not mine, I can't quite figure out how to reset that. So it's gonna be in meters per second, and I gonna do the conversion, and I gonna always put it down below what that would be in feet per second. But we're gonna be shooting both of these bows probably 5-6 times now through the chronograph, and then get some reasonable average, and then do a quick discussion about that and what that actually means. I'm gonna be standing over here shooting. I want you to actually have a look over here at the chronograph, and I'm gonna just be shooting one quiver full, which is 5 arrows that are all identical, of course, and then we're gonna take the average. So I'm starting, of course, with my tried and true beautiful older Jackal. 55. I hope you can see this actually. It says 55.0. 55.0. 55.2. 55.8. 55.9. All right, now somewhere between 55, we had 2 times 55, then 55.1, 55.8, 55.9. Let's call it 55.5, and I'm gonna put down below what that actually is in feet per second. That is pretty darn impressive. 10.5 grains per pound. All right, now second set, my new ACS, 47.8 pounds, 64 inches, 27.25 inch draw. $54.8. 55.1. 55.4. $55.3. Whoops. 54.4. Now, I would call that a pretty average of about 55. Now, 55 meters per second versus 55.5 meters per second. So that is about a foot and a half in speed difference. All right, folks. So here for a conclusion. Let's talk about this very briefly. I know by now you're probably not believing me anymore that I can say anything briefly. I'm gonna try. Let's have a look at it one more time. We have a 64-inch bow when we have a 62-inch bow. I have a rather short draw length, or on the shorter side, which is like 27 and a half, something like that. So the length of the bow would make a significant difference for me in performance. Despite that, has the longer bow, the 64-inch bow, with the new limb geometry and a pound for pound heavier arrow by quite a lot, because we're looking here at 48 pounds ish as we tested, and we came out with about 11 grains per pound, right? And we still have pretty much the same speeds. So the shorter bow, which makes quite a lot of difference at that point, with 3 pounds more of draw weight and also a pound for pound lighter arrow, was only able to achieve on average about a foot and a half more speed. So we're looking at a difference between about 180 feet per second, which is already amazing, and 181 and a half feet per second, which is amazing as well. Thinking about it, we're taking like a 51-pound bow, long bow, without any carbon or whatever in it, and we're throwing a 530 grain arrow, which is definitely a hunting weight, especially with the 215 grains up front, 220, whatever it actually is, 215, I think, at 180 feet per second. So none of these two bows are even close to slouch. They're amazing. They're running some of my modern recurves into the ground. That says a lot about Stalkerstickbows. Now, if you are a person like me who is really getting to the point in his life where I don't really want to run 50 plus pounds anymore because of the 25 years of archery and 30 years of contact sports, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, judo, heavy lifting, all the stuff that absolutely deteriorated my shoulders, my elbows, and so on and so forth, it makes a big difference for me, because 51 pounds or 47, 48 pounds with that type of performance makes a difference between me being able to shoot a bow pretty much every day or shooting it once or twice a week. Sounds maybe somewhat exaggerated, but that's the reality of things. That being said, if you are running a 50-pound Stalkerstickbows reflex deflex bow from whatever era before the ACS, there is no need, in my opinion, to upgrade. Because even if we're saying they're running the same weight, let's say they were completely the same specs. The other bow would be 64 inches long as well. The old one, it would also have 48 pounds and would run the same weight arrows. There is no way that this other bow would not also reach at least 170 feet per second. And 170 feet per second is something with the right timing and knowing where to hold, is gonna harvest every animal except for some, let's say maybe some elk at some distance, or like big moose, brown bears, whatever. But your classic red deer here in Europe, roe deer, your whitetails, your mule deers, all of this kind of game not a question. So my conclusion is, absolute point for the new limbs if you're getting a new Stalker. If you're not getting a new Stalker but you're thinking about upgrading, in my opinion, with my budget, not worth it. Is there a nicer draw cycle in the new ones? Yes. More performance per pound? Yes. Craftsmanship is amazing on the old ones, is amazing on the new ones. My opinion, just a little bit of a difference in looks, a little bit of difference in the draw cycle, and a slight difference, a significant, but slight difference in performance for the new limbs. So at this point, it is pretty much up to you what is more important to you, and what your budget is. And that's about it. I would like to know what this puppy performs like at 62 inches, actually, because I can imagine that is absolutely mind-blowing. So that I'm probably never going to find out about that. But if you're 27.5-inch draw, in my opinion, you can absolutely go with the 62-inch longbow, and you're going to be totally fine. Maybe another piece of advice and another piece of review that is significant. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for everybody who's supporting the channel. This is difficult to keep up at a... Still the deer. It's crazy. They're just like everywhere. It's a little bit difficult to keep up at a quick rate. Life's happening. This is not making me any funds. However, I'm going to try to keep these videos up, and I hope you enjoy them. So if you do, please like and subscribe, because that makes a huge difference, even if you don't think so. But 75% of the people watching these videos are not subscribed, and there's absolutely no excuse for that. So do your part, and I'm going to do mine. You guys have a good one, and I'm going to see you next time. Cheers.